South Korea's record-breaking fiscal budget for 2026 is now in its most critical phase of review at the National Assembly, with lawmakers racing toward the December 2nd deadline and clashing over spending priorities. For more, we're joined by our political correspondent Moon Hae-ryun today. Welcome, Hae-ryun.
It's good to be here, Sejin.
So you've been here with us to walk us through the budget review process. So what stage are we in right now?
Well, Sejin, it's been around 2 weeks since President Lee gave his policy speech at the National Assembly, and we've now entered the final stage of deliberations for next year's fiscal budget. The National Assembly's Special Committee on Budgets and Accounts held a public hearing on the proposal, where experts and committee members debated the core contents of the budget bill, and then followed up with general policy inquiries on various ministries. And starting Monday, the Budget Adjustment Subcommittee began the detailed review process, where it is now combing through spending items to make adjustments to allocations and resolving disputes between the ruling and opposition parties.
I see. So have there been any changes made to the government's budget bill proposal thus far?
So over the past few weeks, there's been a few changes made to the budget proposal, and one of them is cuts to the prosecution's special activity budget, where the National Assembly's Legislation and Judiciary Committee has moved to approve 3.15 billion Korean won, less than what the government originally requested. Lawmakers from the ruling bloc argued that the prosecution's investigative powers have been sharply reduced, and with the prosecutor's office set to be abolished next October, cuts were necessary. The committee also attached new conditions, including a rule blocking special activity funds from being used at any prosecutor's office where the chief prosecutor is found to have breached political neutrality by participating in collective action. Meanwhile, the defense budget allocated for next year has been increased by nearly 300 billion won. A significant portion of the increase goes towards personnel costs, with lawmakers adding funds to raise on-duty allowances for soldiers to match those of civilian government workers, and boosting allowances for troops relocating due to personnel transfers. Additional increases have also been made for barrack support facilities and training programs to develop artificial intelligence talent within the armed forces.
So what have been the main points of contention between the ruling and opposition parties?
Well, the government's proposed budget for 2026 is South Korea's largest annual budget to date, coming in at 728 trillion Korean won, or just under $500 billion US. As a result, the expansionary fiscal policy of the Lee administration has been a key area of conflict between the ruling Democratic Party and the main opposition People Power Party, accusing each other of engaging in populism.
2024 tax shortfall, 30.8 trillion won. Yet the Yoon administration issued no bonds and covered it by reallocating funds.
You say you'll invest 10.1 trillion to make Korea a top 3 AI power. But didn't you allocate 13 trillion in the second supplementary budget for livelihood recovery payments?
Lawmakers also zeroed in on one of the Lee administration's key policy pledges called a rural basic income that provides regular monetary handouts to all residents living in rural areas regardless of their job, income or age. Starting in 2026, it will be launched as a 2-year pilot program in selected rural areas, and each resident will receive a set amount in the form of local community vouchers every month that essentially functions as cash. The DP has been supporting this policy by saying it will revitalize local regions, while the PPP has warned that it could become a massive black hole in the budget.
Rural areas are beautiful but inaccessible. Build roads, guarantee basic income, and people will come.
This program will cost around 360 billion, including local contributions, while essential farmer budgets such as direct payment programs have been cut by hundreds of billions.
As the Budget Subcommittee continues to make adjustments before the December 2nd deadline, the parties are expected to continue clashing over the scope and sustainability of the administration's next year's spending.
All right, thank you so much for your report today, Hae-ryun.
Thank you for having me.